Hey everyone, it's Lockhart QT here, and today I'm talking about the Black Ops 6 beta, and I'm going to be sort of giving it a review based on the sort of format of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about the positive features and the things I liked in the good section. So let's start off with the overall art style, graphics, UI, and all that good stuff. Straight away, I think the game looks brilliant. It looks fantastic. I was playing it on an Xbox Series X in 4K, basically on probably the highest setting it can go to, max FOV, etc. And the game looks fantastic, but pretty much every Call of Duty game nowadays looks good in the graphics department, and especially that this is a Treyarch Call of Duty as well. Treyarch Call of Duties always stand out to me as they're a lot more vibrant. The colours pop a bit more compared to sort of the military sims, sort of the more toned down muted colours used by like Infinity Ward, for example. But yeah, I think overall the beta looks fantastic, the game looks fantastic, the ray tracing, the bright colours and the lighting are all on point. The UI, in my opinion, I know it's been a sort of controversial topic in recent weeks, especially more for zombies rather, but personally I think the UI and the UX is fine. I think it could be a lot better, maybe themed for the 90s or Black Ops in general, as it's pretty much using the same fonts and style that was used in Cold War. However, things are made to be transparent so you can see the gameplay behind it, but overall I think the UI is good as well. And speaking of which, in multiplayer we've also got a taste of the customization. The game has a lot of customizable settings and UI features, and the fact that you can actually change the HUD to a legacy HUD like classic Call of Duty ones, as well as there's a Black Ops 3 one, as well as there's even a Modern Warfare HUD which changes the HUD to sort of represent MW9 2019. What else did I like? Well, I actually really liked the overall map layout and map design. So in the beta we got 3 maps, being Derelict, Scud and Skyline. Personally, my favourite in the beta was actually Derelict, which I know is going to surprise a lot of people because most of my games have actually been played on Skyline. Skyline's a very interesting map. For me, it's kind of a mix between Black Ops 2's Hijacked and Raid. It's kind of though as if Hijacked and Raid kind of like had a baby and then Skyline was birthed as a map. It's a pretty cool map overall. I really do like Derelict though. That's the one with sort of the trains and the outdoor, the greenery. I just really like the layout. Again, all of these are, well, other than Scud, are sort of 3-lane maps. And I think that works really well, not only for Treyarch, but in my opinion 3-laned maps are the best multiplayer maps out of any that really have come out for Call of Duty. I mean, obviously the classic like MW2 ones aren't really 3-laned, but Treyarch do really well with 3-lane maps. And overall, I really liked Derelict. I thought Skyline was fine. Scud, I've been a bit mixed on. I've been a bit hit or miss. I've had some good games and some bad games. The map is a lot more open. It's a lot more sniper friendly. But I think I'm not really a big fan of maps where I've got to have like my head on a swivel. So yeah, Scud in my opinion is probably the weaker out of the 3, but I really did like Derelict. Another good point is the guns. I feel like overall the guns, and the general gunplay is fantastic. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what Call of Duty and Activision excel at, is the general feel of the guns, the time to kill, the hit markers. I think the time to kill needs to be tweaked a little bit, but in general, for a sort of first iteration of the beta, I think it's a really nice place. I mean, obviously, things like damage drop off, bullet range, and as well as time to kill will all be tweaked throughout the beta and sort of perfected when the game comes out. But overall, in terms of guns, I really vibed with the AK-47. I love it in every single game it's been in, and I also really liked the Jackal PDW, specifically the Mastercraft variant. Not only do all of the Mastercrafts that you get in the sort of Vault Edition, they all look fantastic, but in my opinion this is the best gun in the beta. This thing is absolutely broken and OP, and technically it's very pay to win. Again, it depends on how you look at it there, but I also love the XM4, which is the default gun. It's basically the Commando from past Call of Duty games, and a lot of guns here do return from Cold War. They're pretty much tweaked very slightly in terms of appearance and sort of damage and range and all those sort of background stats. But yeah, if you really like Cold War War, then I think you're really going to like Black Ops 6. If you didn't like Cold War, well, the game's very, similar in general. But another thing I liked was the overall gameplay, how it felt to play the beta. Personally, I actually really like the multiplayer so far. I'm not really a massive multiplayer guy. I am more so zombies. I don't really sort of play Warzone too often. I'm obviously more of a zombies person, but for me, multiplayer, is something that me and my friends do play occasionally. So I'm also a big fan of Cold War's multiplayer. I did like Cold War's multiplayer. I think personally Black Ops 6 is if Black Ops 2 and Cold War had a child, because there's a lot of things that are returning, such as it has a very similar creator class system to Black Ops 2, whilst also bringing some elements from MW3 2023, as well as Black Ops Cold War. So yeah, it feels like a modernized Black Ops 2 if you want a sort of comparison for the multiplayer. What else did I like? Well, I really liked the operator selection that we had. A few of the operators I didn't really care about because I'm just not going to play as them. However, we've got some fan favourites returning, being Adler and Park, as well as on the other side of the spectrum, I believe it's called Crimson. It's Black Ops and Crimson. You can actually, if you pre-order the game, you can get Brutus and Klaus. Klaus from Mauer der Toten and Brutus from Blood of the Dead and Mob of the Dead as the Warden. It's very bizarre playing as Brutus in a sort of zombies experience as well as Klaus. Klaus, I would, feel like that's a bit more believable as an operator because he came out, during Cold War and he came out during Mauer der Toten, so I could definitely see Klaus being an operator at some point. But Brutus, since obviously we've left Aether, the Aether storyline no longer sort of exists. But yeah, Brutus, he's fully voice acted, both him and Klaus. The original voice actor for Brutus in Blood of the Dead returns to reprise his role, and Brutus sounds incredible. Like when you're shooting enemies, he's talking about them being prisoners and locking down areas. It is very bizarre to hear, and after a few games when you're playing as Brutus, you'll get used to it. Next up, let's talk about the Omni movement. Personally, I loved the Omni movement. A tip for sort of anybody watching this video is what I would say is that you're going to have to get used to the Omni movement. There is a great opening tutorial. What I like about this opening tutorial is it only really specifically goes over the Omni movement. At the end of the day, Call of Duty's been out for a very long time now as a series. Like, people don't really need a tutorial on how to play COD. So I feel like giving a tutorial just specifically for the new features was a great move here. If you guys don't know what Omni movement is, well, you can now sprint, dive and jump in any direction, which it sounds very odd, but it is something that you're probably going to have to get used to. It's probably going to take a few games to get used to, but doing things like sprinting to the right and then dolphin diving and then in like Max Payne fashion dual wielding pistols. I did get a few kills where I got one on Skyline where I sort of jumped into the swimming pool and got a kill that way, and it was a very cool moment. And overall, I really liked Omni Move. Okay, so now on to the bad. So this section isn't entirely all extremely terrible, but these were a few sort of nitpicks and issues that I had with the game. So these aren't quite really bad, but they're... So one issue that I had on Xbox Series X, I was playing via the Vault Edition pre-order, and one issue that I had particularly on Skyline as well as Derelict was I was getting a few frame rate issues. Now I am playing on 4K with sort of all the bells and whistles, so ray tracing and everything turned on. I did sort of tweak my settings and I managed to sort of get a few less issues on Skyline. However, I was getting frame rate dips on Derelict more so, and I'm not really too sure why that is. I imagine this will be something that's ironed out and fixed during the beta, because I've seen people online also commenting about this. And again, it's nothing too bad, like it doesn't drop to like 10 FPS, but it is very noticeable. It does drop from like 60 to 30 at times, and it's a bit odd. And in terms of, I think a lot of guns and lethals and tactical grenades also need tweaks. Again, this is why they've got the beta, is to iron out bugs and to sort of pick up on what's trending in terms of guns, what's overpowered and what needs buffing. There were quite a few guns and lethals and tacticals that in my opinion just need completely buffing. Some of them, I forget what the name of the grenade is called, but it's like the incendiary grenade that's also a gas grenade. For me, I found that very weak. There was also quite a few weapons that I just felt were very weak compared to things like the Jackal PDW. The Jackal PDW is currently absolutely broken. I imagine it's going to be nerfed into the ground just because of how broken it is at the moment. But yeah, I feel like a lot of it needs to be tweaked, and I imagine Treyarch will do so in the coming weeks at both the closed beta and the open beta. Next up, so although I really do like Omni movement, at times it can feel a bit clunky, more so with the tac sprint. The tac sprint from MW 2019 returns here, and if you guys don't know what the tac sprint is, so in Black Ops 6 you've got sort of, you know, your regular movement and then you're sprinting, and then on top of that, if you sort of hold down your sprint even further, you'll go into tac sprint, which is basically a faster sprint. However, for me, sometimes it either doesn't activate at all, and it sometimes takes a sort of a couple of button clicks to actually sort of kick in. It's very odd, and I imagine this is, you know, something that's going to be worked on quite quickly, because a lot of people, from what I've seen on like Twitter and YouTube, are picking up on this and basically commenting on it. Apparently you can go into your settings and make a few tweaks to sort of make it a bit more responsive, but there are still a few issues with the tac sprint and the Omni movement. And finally, let's talk about the ugly. These are sort of the bigger issues for me, and one so is, I don't know if anybody else has been getting this, but I've had a massive bug with loadouts in the game. So in the beta, as you know, most COD betas do, once you get to rank 4, you can make your own custom loadouts and then level them up thus further. And in Black Ops 6, there is a bug going around where mid-match it will just erase all of your loadouts and replace it with the default ones, and it's really annoying because, say for example, I'm using the Jackal PDW Mastercraft, and then mid-game it will then automatically change it to the sort of default loadout, you know, the one with the Jackal PDW and the XM4. It's the very first loadout you get to pick in multiplayer, and it keeps doing this where it keeps almost resetting the entire loadout, and I have to go back in after the game and sort of recreate that loadout, and it won't let me switch it out. I've even had a couple instances where I've had to outright close the Black Ops 6 app to fix this issue, and again, I imagine because this is such a big issue, especially mid-game, that you can't use certain weapons because they're just locked out to you suddenly mid-match, I imagine this will be worked on and addressed quite quickly by Treyarch, or at least I hope it is. Usually when I've played betas on Xbox in the past with things like, you know, Black Ops 3, etc., I have had issues with crashing. For some reason, the Xbox, in terms of betas, with my experience, has had a lot more crashes than PC and PlayStation. However, I'm happy to report that when playing the beta, I only actually had one crash, and that was on Skyline. And I've played, you know, quite a few matches now. I think I'm level 19 as of recording this video. But yeah, I've only had one crash really, where it just completely crashed the app. Luckily, it didn't crash my console. But overall, on the sort of crashing department, it's not too bad. But yeah, I do have to put it in the ugly, because obviously the entire game crashing is quite a big thing. And lastly, the one thing I wanted to say, so this isn't specific to the beta, but obviously it does involve it, and that is the download process on Xbox. I found it extremely annoying. I've heard people that are playing Game Pass are finding it even more annoying because it's just completely, it's just overly complicated, and I feel like this issue completely stems from the Call of Duty HQ launcher. If you guys don't know, to sort of download the game, you not only have to install an update for Modern Warfare 3, but you have to install loads of content packs as well as other things, and you have to go to different places. For example, for some of the content packs and the beta one, you have to actually search manually for Black Ops 6 on the Microsoft Store, and then the other side of things, you have to go into the Call of Duty app itself, you have to go to manage add-ons and then add more content packs and update the game that way, and it's just very annoying because I went into the beta beta sort of when it launched this afternoon, thinking, oh okay, I've got everything downloaded, I'll just go straight into it. And then I actually found out that I was missing one of the content packs and I had to install it, and it was quite frustrating. And I've heard apparently people that are playing it via Xbox Game Pass are having quite a few issues. I mean, I've actually had a few issues where I've updated the game and then it's given me an error message, and I've had to uninstall and reinstall that content pack as well as the 30 gig update to get it to work, and then I've had to restart my console in order to get it to work. And I've heard people on PC are having the same issue. So again, the Call of Duty HQ app is just extremely annoying, and I miss the days where, you know, you could just install a COD and it would have its own menus and it wouldn't be completely confusing and cumbersome to use. I personally hate the Call of Duty sort of launcher, the HQ app. It drives me nuts. But yeah, those are my sort of day one impressions for the Black Ops 6 beta. Thank you so much for watching the video today, and tell me in the comments below, what do you think of the Black Ops 6 beta so far? Are you enjoying it? Are you not enjoying it? Or are you waiting for the open beta? I'll have more videos on Black Ops 6 Zombies as well as Black Ops 6 with the beta in the next few days, as well as the sort of going through the different unlocks. But I have got some gameplay on the channel if you guys want to go check that out. But thank you so much for watching the video today. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.